Welcome back to the Canada Specialist Program webinar series. Our next update today is with Sean. Again, a familiar face. Hopefully, you've seen Sean around before. Sean today is talking about the Yukon. He's our local representative for Tourism Yukon. Now, Sean, we always love learning about the Yukon. We have seen a few updates before, but for anybody who's new or for a quick refresh, can you just start from the beginning? Tell us, where is the Yukon and how do we get there?
Certainly. Thanks so much, Charlie. Again, welcome everybody and welcome to the Yukon. As Charlie mentioned, it is important just to refresh ourselves about where is the Yukon. The Yukon is high up in the north, hard on the western side of Canada, right up against Alaska. So it's very high in the north. The Arctic Circle actually runs through the Yukon. Access, however, is still very good. We have some very convenient air access, primarily via Vancouver. That's through Air Canada or Air North, primarily. One thing to remember, if you are coming from Australia, sometimes it is better to actually book the Air North flights if you're not planning to do an extended layover in Vancouver, because the Air North flight usually leaves a little bit earlier than the domestic flight to Whitehorse from Vancouver. So that's just a top tip there. Obviously, we also have various other ways. We have gateway cities, which you can get air access from, as I mentioned in the slide there. You can also drive, which is also a popular way, and cruise access is possible as well. Some of the drive times, fly times, and so forth, just to further orientate yourselves, because Yukon is a big place. Whitehorse to Dawson City, quite a popular drive in the summertime, 5 to 6 hours, an hour and 10-minute flight. Whitehorse to Killarney National Park, also very popular, an hour and 30 minutes. That actually makes quite a nice day trip if you're interested in seeing some quite amazing mountains, including Mount Logan, which is the highest mountain in the Yukon. Now, Whitehorse is definitely the gateway. It is the place where people will fly into, most likely. It is the biggest city, or I should say biggest town, really, in the Yukon. You won't find any skyscrapers or extensive subway networks or anything like that in Whitehorse. It is very much a nice town where we do have some quality hotels, there's some fantastic restaurants, lots of activities. And one of the great things about Whitehorse is that all your summer and winter activities are typically accessible within about half an hour, 30 minutes, half an hour, maybe 45-minute drive, which makes things really nice and easy. Of course, our operators will pick you up from hotels and lodges and so forth as well. So it definitely is a great base to explore the Yukon.
Now, the Aurora. Oh.
Yes.
So, of course, the Aurora is a huge draw card for people to travel to the Yukon. It's not the only thing to do, though. So, Sean, tell us a bit about viewing the Northern Lights, the Aurora, and some of the other popular activities in the winter that you do during the daytime.
Definitely, Charlie. So one of the key draw cards, as Charlie mentioned, and one of the reasons why Yukon is very much on the map is about the Northern Lights. The Aurora Borealis is a fantastic weather phenomenon. It's actually solar weather coming from the sun. And as we say here in the presentation, late August to mid-April is the primary time viewing. People do have, I guess, sometimes the wrong impression that you can only see the Aurora in the heart of winter. Actually, late fall from August, fall from is also quite a good time. In fact, some of the people that I've talked to in the Yukon have said their best Aurora ever has actually been in the August-September period. So that's something to keep in mind. We do definitely recommend you stay 3 to 4 nights with 2 to 3 nights Aurora viewing. Typically, if you do a tour, you'll finish around 2, 3 a.m. So that's important also to be managing your clients' sleep time, rest times, particularly if they want to do day activities and so forth as well. Viewing sites, we have some great operators who have viewing sites which are about 20 minutes from town. They'll pick you up from your hotel. They have heated yurts, or they have cabins. They serve lots of nice snacks and so forth. There's guides there to help you out with astrophotography. It's really quite amazing. The other great way is through a lodge stay, which will typically be outside of town, and you can see the aurora directly from your cabin window, which is quite nice. Our accommodation, you won't find any sort of luxury 5-star hotels in the Yukon. We do have some fantastic 3.5, 4-star accommodation. The 4-star Raven Inn in Whitehorse is a relatively new property. We also have a Hyatt coming up in the next year or so, which will take that standard up even further. Our lodges are between 3 to 4-star, and you actually find them very, very nice. We actually do have some of our more luxury-orientated operators and agents in Australia who are actually booking our wilderness lodges as a luxury or wilderness luxury style product. So if you have clients who actually are wanting that style, we can definitely cater for that in the Yukon. And of course, we have hostels and camping as well. Some of the activities you can find during the winter time. Dog sledding is extremely popular. This is, I think, on Fish Lake, just outside Whitehorse. Snowmobiling is also a fantastic way of seeing the Yukon, and you don't have to worry about managing dog teams, which can be a little bit challenging sometimes. Snowshoeing as well. It is really nice and common to do light fires and so forth in a winter environment, to have some nice hot tea or some hot chocolate and so forth. Really great way of experiencing things. And of course, ice fishing as well is also a very popular winter activity in the Yukon. Again, all accessible within about 30, 40 minutes from Whitehorse town. The Eclipse Hot Springs. Now, this has just been renovated. In fact, most of the buildings have been completely changed, and it's now more representing a Nordic style hot spring experience with very nice wood paneled buildings, and it's really sort of up to the standard of the hot springs in the Yukon. Again, that's accessible from Whitehorse. We also have our hair freezing competition every year, which is quite interesting. That's right. That's I did have hair before I entered the competition.
I was going to say, Sean, you can't really do the hair competition anymore.
Just to work like a bit of warning there. But if you do actually happen to freeze your hair, you can dunk your hair back in the water and it will melt. That was a tip that I didn't actually hear a little bit later on, unfortunately. Yukon Wildlife Preserve, winter and summer, is a fantastic opportunity to see some of the amazing Canadian animals, including my favorite, the Canadian bison, which you'll see in your top, I think, off your screen there. Glass blowing at Lumen Studios, also a fantastic way of meeting the locals, which is really nice. We also have many other activities which are accessible in winter and in summer. McBride Museum is a fantastic way to actually orientate yourself or your clients on what the Yukon is all about, the history of the Yukon and so forth. We have fantastic First Nations museums and interpretive centres. Other thing is the amazing food in the Yukon. A lot of chefs have made the Yukon their home, so it's also worth checking out. Winters. It is important to remember that the Yukon gets very cold in winter. Minus 35 degrees during the evening is not uncommon, typically about minus 20. You do need to organise winter clothing rental for your clients. Most of the Australian ski gear will not be suitable for the Yukon. I have been on many Yukon trips where people have gone, no, look, I'm an experienced skier. I'll just bring the gear I've taken from home, and they've been very cold. So we can, or the Yukon clothing rentals can sort them out with the proper gear there. It is also important to remember about sunlight. In December, sunlight is from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Actually kind of makes it quite nice because you have a nice twilight situation happening for pretty much most of the day, actually. So that's also quite interesting. And
then of course, when you get to the summer, it's the complete opposite, right? Which is so fascinating in terms of the temperatures and the length of the days. So what's it like in the Yukon in the summer, Sean? And then what are some of those summer activities?
100%, yeah. Look, it's really turning everything on its head, right? You go from very low light conditions to during the summer solstice, the sun doesn't set at all. So it's actually quite amazing. You can, for example, in Dawson City, there's a fantastic sort of Western style casino there called Diamond Tooth Gertie's, and you can finish up there at midnight, and then you come out and it's still daylight, and you feel like you're ready to go again. So no, it really is quite amazing. During our summer, that's when most of our outdoor activities that don't require heavy-duty down parkers all become available. So some fantastic hiking, canoeing, fishing opportunities, there's cycling, there's mountain biking. It's a great opportunity to see some of our historic and cultural sites. And of course, the scenery as well. This is Emerald Lake, which is just south of Whitehorse on the way to Carcross in the photo there. Miles Canyon is also literally in Whitehorse itself, which is a nice, fantastic spot for a bit of a guided walk as well. As you can see here, one of the hallmarks of some of our river systems is this beautiful emerald water. The White Pass and Yukon Route train. That's trip is on the Chilkoot Trail, and it's made famous by the book called The Wild. It's a fantastic train that actually runs through to Skagway, Alaska, and you can organize day trips from Whitehorse, which usually will depart from Carcross, but I believe you can get transfers as well from Whitehorse town. To some of the visuals you can see on the train here, as you can see, fantastic scenery of the Yukon and also through northern British Columbia. And also, yeah, on the way into Alaska as well. So it's quite interesting. Yukon wildlife, very important, especially during the summertime. We have a lot of wildlife here. We've got moose, we've got bison, we've got bears, we've got 165,000 caribou. You will see wildlife when you're on the roads of the Yukon. Sometimes you'll see wildlife in the towns of the Yukon, so it's quite a special experience.
So most of what you've covered, Sean, can be found in and around Whitehorse, which is great. That is so accessible to do everything from that base. But what are some of the other popular destinations in the Yukon, and can you self-drive?
Yes, so particularly during the summertime, self-drive or taking various touring options through operators is definitely a fantastic way to see more of the Yukon than just Whitehorse. Because we do have some fantastic other centres and other points of interest. Just to mention a few here, Dawson City, a 5 to 6 hour drive through some magnificent country. Whitehorse to Carcross is only 50 minutes. And then we have Kluane National Park, which is an hour and 30-minute drive away. So we also have some fantastic scenic drives, which are actually on our website, which actually talks about the routes you can take and the points of interest along the way. So it's definitely worth checking out there. Particularly for the fall colours in September. As you can see from that photograph there, the Yukon changes colour over fall, and it really is quite spectacular. Kluane National Park. One of the great things about Kluane National Park is we have some fantastic, very, very high mountains, including the highest mountain in Canada, which is called Mount Logan. It's a fantastic opportunity to see the world's largest ice field, 20 summits over 4,200 meters. So it's a quite spectacular experience. Flight seeing is one of the best ways of actually experiencing the whole Kluane National Park and St. Elias Mountain region. And of course, one of the interesting things as well is looking at Dawson City and then up into Tombstone Territorial Park. Now, Dawson City is a 6 hour drive or a 1 hour flight on Air North from Whitehorse. It is a fantastic historical town. You really feel like you've jumped into the Wild West. Everything is historical, that all the buildings are kind of a Western style. You really have to kind of see it to sort of understand just how good Dawson City is. It's one of my favorite places in the Yukon. Downtown hotels, one of the many accommodation options are available there. And you can see here from the visual, this is how the Dawson City looks. It is the home of the Klondike Gold Rush. So you can go pan for gold there. There's lots of different tours you can do to actually experience some of the Gold Rush history and so forth. Just some of the pictures there. We have Dredge 4, which is the largest dredge in the world, which was operating for many years in the Yukon to get that gold. To some of the accommodation available in the Yukon, in Dawson, and some of the buildings as well. It is on permafrost, so you actually find that some of the buildings, they're obviously non-operable, are actually sinking. because of the permafrost underneath. And now they've actually learned how to build the buildings better so that doesn't occur. But you can still see some of the sinking buildings which have had to be abandoned as you walk through Dawson City. There's some fantastic historical tours run through Parks Canada, and also through some of our local operators as well, which takes you through a guided experience of what Dawson was like back in its heyday of the gold rush. Diamond Tooth Gertie's casino, which I mentioned before, it's not really it's a casino, but it's not a casino like we know it. It's more of like an old Western style. It's actually fun for everybody, and it's one of the nice things about it is actually the musical shows they have here. So they have really great dancers, great bands, and so forth, all done in that Western style. Okay, and just finally now, Tombstone Territorial Park, 1.5 hour drive north of Dawson City via the Dempster Highway. This visual, I think, says it all. It's a fantastic place to visit. It has been sort of, parallel with Patagonia and places like this. You can hike there, multi-day hiking and day hiking. Driving is also a fantastic way of seeing things. There's various tours you can do and so forth. Again, just some of the visuals here.
Thank you, Sean. It's
No
absolutely
worries.
stunning.
Excellent. And I think I'm just about running out of time. So I'll just show you some of the fall colours here around Tombstone.
Finish with some
And
pictures.
that's just about it. So yeah, thank you, everybody.
Oh, thank you, Sean. That was a great tour of the Yukon. And I know there's so much more to learn. And so thank you.